mean, everyone's death is going to come at some point, but it might come a little sooner if you blew the death whistle.
Seen the movie yet, but I love a good cursed object monkey's paw story. Yeah. And I'm curious, did this maybe begin out of a love for those chillers, or for that matter just researching Aztec superstitions?
Definitely a love of those kind of films. I'm a big fan. I think good horror starts not with the question of like, what's going to scare you, but more like, what's going to scare me? Yeah. And I was journaling and thinking, I was like, well, what scares me is the idea that somewhere out there, my death is waiting. Like, it's out there. And I started feeling through that, and started coming up with this curse that is the center of our story. And in the process, I was also like researching, well, what is that going to look like? What's the physical thing? And I came upon the Aztec death whistles, and they're across Mesoamerica and different also other cultures as well. And they're so fascinating. And we don't know what they're for. We don't know what they meant in their particular culture. There's so much mystery behind them that they seemed actually a really interesting vessel to build story around as well. And that's how that came to be in some ways, right?
Yeah, I think for me, there's such a mystery around this. It's a real object that you can research and see images of, but there's a real kind of mixed takes on what they were used for and why, and what their sound that it emits was for, whether it was for like a call to war or whether it was part of a ritual or sacrifice. And what I loved about Owen's script was, you just said it actually, obviously all horror movies, they all thrive on death in some form. They have to, fear of death. But what's the slight sort of twist in the nuance on Whistle is what you said. It's like death is waiting. Like, what is your death going to look like? And that is quite a kind of interesting, creepy, unnerving, and also slightly, if you embrace it, and kind of enlightening idea. Yeah. Because everyone's going to have one, right?
So these things do exist. They are an archaeological object. I know that the Aztecs practiced human sacrifice. Is that an element at all in your movie?
We touch upon some of the lore and some of the mythology. And, the Olmecs also had these kind of whistles, and there's other versions as well, the Mayans as well. In our story, that lore is shadowy and filled with nooks and crannies that you can imagine but are not fully explored, because the last thing we wanted to do is like explain everything. Like, that's never a fun part of them. No one likes those last 6 minutes of Psycho when the doctor comes in and explains exactly what happened.
Yeah, it's an ancient artifact that's been around for centuries, and clearly, I mean, you can see a little if you look at this one. It's got history to it. It's been handled. It's been inscribed over time, and it's been responsible for a lot of death through its lifetime. But we wanted to make sure we told something which was it's been effectively taken out of its natural environment, and it's found its way into an American high school to a bunch of characters who can't help but want to blow it and find out what it does.
One of the central people playing a high schooler in this is Dafne Keen, who obviously tremendous performance in Logan. Was there a particular project you saw her in that made her perfect in your mind for this?
Yeah, I think it was the prospect of looking for a young cast, because actually once I sort of was on board making Whistle and in the casting process, I was sort of like, oh, this is different to everything I've done. We need to cast a kind of a breakfast club of an ensemble of young characters. And so I was looking at films like Breakfast Club or The Lost Boys as a sort of like, I need to find a group of upcoming actors who can bubble with energy together. If you look at Lost Boys, that's an incredible moment in time when you had that kind of, Brat Pack cast. So I was like, who can I look for that will be able to we can feel excited about the concept of them being in a movie together before seeing the movie, and when you see it they come together, they are like my gang. And like you said, I've always sort of wanted to do an American high school horror movie. It almost feels like part of a rite of passage of being a horror director. You need to do one of them, and I've grown up on Nightmare on Elm Street and Lost Boys and Breakfast Club and things like that. And so it was like, this is the movie. This is the movie that I'm going to do my American high school movie. Now I'm English, so I'm basing a lot of the heartbreak and teen angst of my own 14-year-old self and watching all those kind of American horror movies. So when it came to casting, and I'm looking at who's out there, who's of the right kind of age between sort of 17 and 20 something, Dafne Keen became a sort of exciting prospect, and Sophie Nélisse in Yellow Jacket. So it's like Dafne Keen, from, you know, known from X-23 and the TV show, but hasn't done a sort of lead in a horror movie. And Sophie Nélisse is now, what a fantastic actress from Yellow Jackets. What can she be paired up with? And then Sky Yang, who's phenomenal, Jaleel Swaby and Ali Scobie. They're all sort of on the brink, I think, and putting them together is a sort of bringing that energy. So really excited.
And you also obviously have Nick Frost, who is genre royalty between Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead Alone and the rest of the Cornetto trilogy. And I'm curious, had you known Nick for a while, and what was it like getting him to come aboard to work on this?
Love Nick. I've known him for a while personally through my friend Edgar Wright, and so I suppose you have people that you're sort of like, I'd love to work with them at some point. What would the project be? And you know, sometimes you just have projects that aren't going to suit them for some reason. And so both Nick Frost and also Michelle Fairley, two fantastic actors. It felt like magic to be able to finally get Nick Frost in a movie. He's playing a school teacher called Mr. Craven, who is a little bit based on a school teacher from my youth, although it came from your pen. Somehow you psychically connected.
Did we have the same? We were in the same class.
I think so.
Is that where we met?
Yeah. So it was having Nick on set. You know what he brings. He's an extremely funny person in real life. It was important that Whistle has a certain kind of levity throughout. I wouldn't say it's a comedy horror movie, but it has. You cast people because of what they bring, and there's definitely some bangers that Nick delivers.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about curse movies, and I'm curious, what to you is the secret of making what is a really good curse movie, and what is the secret of this subgenre of horror?
I've got to say The Ring, I think for me, is probably the ultimate cursed object movie, and Hellraiser, probably those two. And it is, part of it is human beings being curious animals, and we're unable to refrain from doing the thing you're not meant to do because you want to know what happens. So in Hellraiser, he shouldn't have messed with the box.
Yeah.
And in The Ring, you shouldn't watch that tape. But and then they have these brilliant kind of mythologies. One brings, these demons from hell, and the other one brings this wraith girl.
Yeah.
And in Whistle, there was a different version of that for me to play with, which again it came from a sort of a real object, but it was sort of like what would happen if I blew this whistle, and what our mythology suggests I found really scary and unique.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Corin, you designed this
Correct.
Whistle.
I knew it was like a leading character. It's like, as well as this great cast, it needs to be on screen throughout the movie and hold up. So I went through maybe 50 or 60 designs, basing it initially on looking at, if you Google a death whistle, you can see they're pretty like strange, creepy looking things already. Some are very simplistic bone carvings, others are elaborate, others are abstract. So I had a Spanish designer, Daniel Carusco. We worked our way through, almost like auditioning a cast member, to try and create something that had the right balance. And visually, I didn't want to just have an object that looked evil, that was like doing a nasty face. I wanted to make something which could take on a different almost personality in different lights. And in Whistle, you see this throughout the movie in different environments. There's flames, or there's pool reflections on it, so it gets lit from below, from the side, from front. And I would do this with a torchlight and a flashlight and check that it could look vacant, could look almost enticing, like the ring in Lord of the Rings, like you just want to put it on or blow it. It could look malign, it could hold up in close-up. So there's some, I mentioned there's a a split diopter shot where half the entire screen of the cinema screen is this whistle and the other half is Nick Frost, looking at it. And so it's a character.
Completely harmless, though.
Totally harmless.